Hey guys, it's Megan and I am back with another video, of course, today. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to get a job in New York and how to get one fast. So I came here unemployed, just living off my savings, and I was terrified because I've heard stories like my roommate took her quite some time to find a job. I know other people who had a hard time finding a job here. So let me go through some do's and don'ts of trying to get a job here, because it's definitely, it can be stressful, it can be intimidating, especially if you're coming here and there's a lot of competition. The first thing you want to do is have a really strong resume. I actually talked to a hiring manager in New York who sees hundreds, thousands of applications all the time. She knows what to look for. She said you don't even have to have your address on your resume. I think it's good and can be important to have your address on your resume if you live in New York, because people want to see that you live here. So if you have an apartment here and you've already moved here, put your address on the resume. And honestly, I would also, that's another thing I would suggest, is if you move here without a job, it's gonna be not as hard for you to find a job because you have an address and you're unemployed and people are looking for people that they can snap up really quickly. I've noticed that. That is also another thing that's important here. So if you're applying from out of state and you're still living out of state and you're trying to get a job hoping to move there, that is a different story. That is a harder story. I would recommend not putting your address on there. They're gonna look to see your current employment, and if you're in, like, for example, Kansas City or Chicago, they're gonna be like, well, why do we want to hire you if you don't even live here? But you know, it is important to stress that you're willing to relocate. It is, obviously don't hide that you're currently employed or anything, but you might have to hit the pavement a little harder if you are in a different city. It is harder to get a job if you're not living in this city. People hire fast. They hire within days, they hire within hours. They need someone and they have hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. So your best bet is to be priority, which is to get in as quickly and as best as you can. So yes, have your resume updated, have a strong resume, have your details of your job descriptions underneath your jobs. Cover letters aren't as important. I do believe that you should have a cover letter. I think it looks professional, but I think you should have the bulk of your information in your resume. Really beef it up. If you're creative, have something cool and different that stands out. Obviously, if you're going to be like a lawyer or get into business profession, you don't want some crazy different resume versus someone who's like applying, someone like me who would be applying to a social media job or applying to, like, you know, something artsy and creative. Obviously, that's going to have a different resume than someone who's applying to be a doctor. I would definitely put that up. Beef up your skills. Any skills that you have, make sure you have it. Any training, any awards, make sure you put that on there so it sticks out, because people ask you about that. If you put something different and random, like I was on Internet Icon, so I put that on my resume and people are like, what is that? They want to know about it. They want to know, like, if I put YouTube on my resume, I can talk about how I do videos and how I have experience editing now from that. And then it gets into more things, the more things that you are skilled at, and people want people that are skilled at something. It definitely helps too, like with what I got into, like I have a communications degree, I have 6 years of customer service. That helped a lot in my interviews because I was loyal to one company for so long. And then I also have my bachelor's degree, which is extremely essential to getting a job in my field, at least. Obviously, if you're applying to be like a waitress or a barista, you don't need a degree, but it is super, super competitive in this town to get into the food industry, and they don't pay great. Some of them do. Obviously, if you're like a waitress here, some waitresses make tons of money, and they just make tons of money from tips. It just depends on locations. Some areas are not as good, and they don't take care of their employees as well. That's just like any other place in America. But it can be very competitive to get into that field. I had 6 years of experience in the customer service world, retail, waitressing, all that stuff, which I thought wasn't going to be great on an employment application for marketing, but it actually helped a lot because marketing is dealing and selling to people. So 6 years of customer service really, really helped my resume. So don't ever be embarrassed of whatever skills you have, obviously. So that's number one, is make sure your resume looks really good. Make sure you have a cover letter. Very important. So then in order to find jobs, I stuck with one website. I think that's important too, instead of trying to go into a whole bunch of different websites trying to find different things. I stuck with Indeed.com. This seemed to be a really good source for me because it had companies from all over. It had like BuzzFeed and Fox, and then it had smaller marketing firms around the city. So to me, that was worth it to try to get on there. And it had like, I want to say at least 200 to 300 new jobs post a day, like in my related field, in marketing, marketing assistance, social media, everything like that. What I found was that if you saw a job listing, if it had been posted within 30 minutes to 3 hours, that is your window to put in your resume. I applied for probably like 20 to 25 jobs a day. I did that for about 6 or 7 days. I probably, honestly, over the span of a week, I put in for about 200 to 300 jobs. It was my goal every day to put in between 20 and 50 jobs. That was my goal. My resume was already set up. I was constantly working on a portfolio, which I put on like a website, basically is how you access it, of course. And I was constantly reworking my resume. I had about 5 different resumes for different areas, like one for marketing, one for social media. It was just a lot. Like I was putting it all together, trying to get organized, and I was working on this like 5 to 6 hours a day. This was also before I started my YouTube channel. I was also filming at the time because I wanted to start my YouTube channel. I would wake up early, treat it like a job, go to the library, sit there for 4 or 5 hours, just mass put in jobs. That was my goal. And then I would go and film somewhere for a couple hours and then take a break. I gave myself a weekend. I let myself be a little more lax on Saturday and Sunday. I feel like I did this for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks actually, that's a lie. I would say it was about 2 weeks of me doing this hardcore. I got interviews almost immediately. I would get phone calls and emails like within like 2-3 hours. And then I started going on interviews because that's important, is to kind of, start. Again, they move so fast in this city. Most of the employers here like to do a phone interview first to kind of get a sense of how you talk. So if you're not comfortable with the phone, practice with someone. Call like your mom or your friend or your brother, I don't care, whoever you need to call, and do a little practice phone interview. I'm very comfortable with the phone. I've worked with it for 6 years, so it didn't bother me. I had no problem in the phone interview. I had no problem in the real interview because interviews don't scare me. I'm a people person. I love to communicate. I can do a video on that, how to practice phone interviews, how to practice in-person interviews to make it, basically they want to see what kind of person you are. So if you put that forward, if you act interested in their company, which most likely if you're interviewing for them, you're interested in their company. So do your research before you go to a company. See what they do. Look up their social media. I was applying for social media jobs. I looked up these people's social medias and then I had comments about them because it was interesting to me and I have knowledge of that. I applied for my current job on a Monday. I got a phone call from him later that day, did a phone interview with him on that Monday, went in for the in-person interview on a Tuesday, got hired on a Thursday. This is how quickly things move in New York. People don't have time to sift through stuff. Indeed will tell you how many applicants were for a job, and it is staggering. Some jobs only get a couple hundred. Other jobs, I've seen 3,000 to 5,000 people apply for one job. I've seen 600 people apply for an office assistant. If someone's hiring an office assistant, do you think they have time to go through 500 to 600 applicants? This is why timing is key. This is why you put in immediately within 28 minutes to 3 hours. I don't care if it's been a minute that they posted, you put in for that job, because I would say after 24 hours, you can still put in for the job. I've never had luck doing that. I wouldn't attempt it unless it's been posted immediately, because what I found is that employers will go through the first 50 to 100 applications, pick out the best from there. So if you can beat out like 50 to 100 people, that's nothing. It's beating out 3,000 that is a totally different story. That's why being early is so key in New York. Those are my recommendations for getting a job in New York, getting one quickly. All right, so I'll talk more on different things later, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.